Welcome back to some new r/PettyRevenge stories, where people share small victories over those who wronged them. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Car Destroyed for It. My brother is a builder, and many years ago he took a job for his ex-father-in-law. Everything was going smoothly at first, but his ex-father-in-law kept changing the specifications and requesting extra work. Being relatively new to self-employment, my brother didn't think to document any of these changes. It was his ex-father-in-law after all. When it came time to invoice, the ex-father-in-law refused to pay for the additional work, leaving my brother significantly out of pocket. Despite countless attempts to reason with him, nothing worked. Left with no other option, my brother took him to small claims court. Unfortunately, without any official documentation to prove the extra work had been agreed upon, he lost the case. Now, this ex-father-in-law wasn't exactly knowledgeable when it came to maintaining his car. He had just purchased a brand new Volvo, likely using some of the money he should have paid my brother. A few weeks after the court ruling, my brother and I, feeling quite frustrated, decided to take matters into our own hands. Late one night, we quietly went to where the car was parked, carefully jacked it up and drained all of the oil. We also made a small cut in the cam belt, just enough to cause trouble later on. Then we left as if we'd never been there. A few days later, we heard the outcome. The ex-father-in-law had driven some distance before the engine began seizing. Eventually, the cam belt snapped, completely ruining the engine on a car that had only done about 2,000 miles. He strongly suspected who was responsible, but had absolutely no proof. The next story is called Bad Tenant. We moved to a new country for career opportunities and decided to lease our lovely two-story home, which was up a steep driveway, to a well-known local socialite and government publicity manager. Initially, everything was fine. Then his mother, who had early dementia, moved in, and suddenly our home was deemed unsuitable. The driveway was called dangerous. It wasn't. The staircase was declared illegal. It wasn't. The upstairs deck railings were claimed to be unsafe. They weren't. It was clear he was trying to find a way to break the lease, without violating it outright. We offered to work with him to resolve any issues, but he became increasingly difficult. Eventually, the rent stopped coming in, and we discovered he had disappeared without notice. This left us out of pocket, both from the unpaid rent and the costs to clean up the property afterward. Since we were busy overseas, pursuing him legally didn't feel worth the hassle. We chalked it up as our lesson learned. 2 years later, we returned to the country, and while visiting my brother in another city, I noticed a familiar Jaguar parked nearby. It turned out to belong to our former tenant, who had purchased a house down the road. That's when a little creativity kicked in. I made a visit to our local farm supply and garden center. A few discreet purchases later, let's just say some embarrassing graffiti appeared on his front fence that evening, pointing out his less than stellar character. After he had that removed, another surprise slowly emerged. A bold message on his roadside lawn, courtesy of some long-term herbicide. Despite his efforts to reseed and fix it, the message lingered for months before finally disappearing. The third story is called Door Ding. Years ago, my neighbor accidentally opened her car door into my truck, leaving a noticeable ding. I saw it happen, but she denied it. And since there were no witnesses or cameras, it became a he said she said situation. When I filed a report, I was told it was a civil matter and nothing could be done. At the time, I had just rebuilt a differential and had an old, damaged pinion gear lying around. My neighbor drove a 4-wheel drive, chewy half-ton truck, and I came up with an idea to give her a little taste of inconvenience. I placed the pinion gear underneath her truck and used a heavy-duty zip tie around her drive shaft, knowing it would create an annoying tapping sound against the muffler. The next morning I watched as she backed out of her parking spot. She stopped, clearly alarmed by the noise. Then she noticed the pinion gear on the ground. I walked over, acting concerned, and asked if something was wrong. She mentioned the strange noise and asked if I knew what the pinion gear was. Playing along, I told her it looked like a part from the transmission and advised her to have the truck towed to our shop. She then asked if I knew a good mechanic, and though this wasn't part of my original plan, I ran with it. I gave her the name of a shop known for being a little less than reliable. The truck was gone for 2 weeks. When I saw her again, I casually asked what the issue had been. She told me the shop said she needed a new transmission and a few other repairs. She ended up spending around $3,500 to address the problem. Meanwhile, I took my truck to a body shop and had the thing repaired for $300. The last story is called Looking for Roy. About 3 or 4 years ago, I started receiving spam calls from realtors, or maybe real estate scammers, looking for someone named Roy. They bombarded me for a week or 2, and then the calls stopped. I moved on and forgot about it, but every so often I'd get another call. Every time it was about Roy, supposedly selling property in a state on the opposite side of the country. Instead of just hanging up or getting frustrated like I normally would, I decided to talk to one of the callers one night. They were more than happy to provide Roy's full name and the address of the property he kept advertising. Curious, I looked him up. It turned out Roy had been listing my phone number on real estate websites to avoid getting flooded with calls himself. The calls eventually went away and I forgot about it. Then, about 2 months ago, the calls started back up. This time I remembered where I had written down Roy's information and looked him up again. I got lucky and found his updated phone number. At first I considered texting him to stop using my number, but I figured he might not take it well. The very next day, I got yet another call with an out-of-state area code. "Are you looking for Roy?" I asked. "Yes, I am. Hang on a sec. Let me give you his phone number. Here it is." "Are you related to Roy?" "No, never met him. Never even been to that city. I live about 3,000 miles away. But Roy has been giving out my phone number for 4 years. So I did some research and found him. Since that call, I haven't received a single spam call looking for Roy. Problem solved. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.